Nobody expected a confession to break the silence of an entire room, especially not at that hour, under those glowing streetlights, when everyone thought the night was finally calming down. Ava had replayed the moment in her mind more times than she could count, but even now, it still felt unreal. One minute, she had been sitting on the edge of her friend's porch, sipping lukewarm tea and watching mist roll over the quiet neighborhood. The next, she heard footsteps behind her, slow, heavy, and filled with a tension she could feel even before she turned around. It was Liam, and nothing about the way he looked at her that night felt ordinary. Ava had known him for years. He was the kind of person who kept his emotions folded neatly inside, like letters he never intended to send. But that evening, around midnight, something in him had shifted. She could sense it in his voice before he even said a word. He sat down beside her, leaving just enough space to suggest he was trying to be careful, but not enough space to hide that something weighed on him. The porch light flickered softly above them, painting faint gold traces across his face. He kept his eyes on the street, as if searching for courage hiding somewhere in the shadows.
Ava tried to break the tension with a gentle laugh. "You look like you're about to tell me you crashed my car," she said.
Liam didn't laugh. That was when her heartbeat picked up. He took a breath, slow and shaky. His hands tightened around the railing. The night breeze stirred, carrying the distant sound of a dog barking and the faint hum of passing cars. Everything felt strangely louder, sharper, as if the world itself was leaning in to listen. "Ava," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something, and I should have said it a long time ago." She turned toward him, studying his face, searching for clues. The lines around his eyes were tighter than usual. His jaw was set. There was something vulnerable there, something she had never seen on him. Her chest warmed with a sudden, nervous anticipation. "What is it?" she whispered. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he rested his elbows on his knees and looked out at the quiet street like he was afraid the moment might collapse if he met her eyes. Ava knew Liam well enough to understand that whatever he meant to say wasn't small, it wasn't casual, it wasn't something he'd brush off later with a joke. It was something that mattered, and that scared her more than she wanted to admit. She tried again, gently. "Liam, you're starting to worry me." He finally looked at her. His eyes were unsteady, but honest. So honest that her breath caught. "Ava," he said softly, "I think I've been avoiding the truth for a long time, and tonight, I can't keep pretending." Her throat tightened. The world seemed to hush around them, holding its breath. "There's something I feel, something about you that I can't ignore anymore." Ava felt her heart drop and rise at the same time. She had imagined this moment before, in quiet corners of her mind she never admitted existed. But imagining something and facing it were two very different things. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her pulse fluttered as she waited for whatever would come next, waited for the thing he had carried in silence for far too long. Liam swallowed hard. But before he could finish, the front door creaked open behind them. Ava flinched and turned, startled. Her friends stepped onto the porch, Ella, Jonah, and Mara, laughing about something that happened in the kitchen, until they saw the expressions on Ava and Liam's faces. The laughter faded instantly. All four froze, sensing the heaviness in the air. Ella whispered, "Did we interrupt something?" Ava couldn't answer. Liam couldn't either. They just sat there, caught in a moment that was suddenly too delicate to touch. None of them knew what he was about to say. None of them were ready for the truth that hung unspoken between them. And Ava, she wasn't sure she was ready either. But she wanted to be. She needed to be. Liam inhaled slowly, building up the courage again, his voice barely above a whisper. Ava? The words hovered at the edge of his lips. And then? The porch light flickered once more, and the night seemed to press a little closer, as if urging the confession to finally break free. The moment hung there, fragile, trembling, like a single note waiting to fall from a violin string. Liam's voice had been right on the edge of breaking open when the front door swung wide. Now, with their friends standing on the porch, the fragile courage he'd gathered seemed to scatter like dust in the wind. Ava watched the shift in his shoulders. He straightened, retreated, closed himself off in that careful way he always did when things got too personal. Ella, Jonah, and Mara exchanged looks, unsure whether to step forward or slowly back away. Jonah cleared his throat, trying to sound normal. We made more tea, if anybody wants some. Mara nudged him with her elbow. Jonah, not now, she whispered. But the tension had already cracked the moment. Ava's heart thudded with an ache she didn't expect. She wasn't sure if she was relieved or disappointed that Liam hadn't finished his sentence. Maybe a bit of both. Maybe more than she could understand. Liam pushed himself to his feet, brushing off his jeans. It's fine, he said quietly. We can go inside. His tone was calm, but Ava heard the tremor beneath it. He was retreating, turning the page before the last line was read. She stood up too, ignoring the questioning looks from her friends. Liam, she said softly, you were saying something. He paused, hand on the railing, as if weighing whether to continue or lock everything back inside the way he always did. But then he forced a small smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. It's nothing, he murmured. Really. Ava felt something twist inside her. It wasn't nothing. She knew him too well, and whatever he'd been about to say had mattered deeply. Jonah stepped inside first, giving Liam a careful pat on the shoulder as he passed. Mara followed, still glancing back at Ava with a sympathetic frown. Ella hesitated the longest, mouthing, "You okay?" Ava nodded, even though she wasn't sure. When everyone else had stepped into the warm glow of the living room, Liam and Ava were left outside again, only now the silence felt different. He leaned on the railing, his head lowered, his breathing unsteady. Ava moved closer. Liam, she whispered, why did you stop? He didn't look at her, but she saw his hands tightening again, always the sign he was fighting something inside. I shouldn't have said anything, he muttered. You've got so much going on. You don't need this on your shoulders, too. This? She echoed. What do you mean, this? He exhaled slowly, finally looking up at the dark sky above them. It's complicated, he said, more than you think. Ava gently crossed her arms, not defensively, but the way someone might when bracing for the truth. I'm standing right here, she said. Let me decide what I can handle. He finally looked at her then, really looked. His eyes carried a storm of uncertainty, fear, and hope, all tangled together. For a moment, she thought he might finally say it. But instead, he whispered, Ava, tonight wasn't supposed to go like this. She stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of him despite the cold night air. So tell me how it was supposed to go. He laughed softly, a sad, helpless sound. Not here, not with an audience, not when the timing is all wrong. She felt her chest tighten again. Maybe timing had always been their problem. Years of almosts. Years of quiet moments that felt like more, but were never spoken aloud. "Liam," she said carefully, "I want to understand. Don't shut me out now." He backed up a step, shaking his head. "I'm not shutting you out. I'm just trying to protect something, and I can't risk saying the wrong thing." She swallowed a lump in her throat. "Is it something that would change things between us?" He closed his eyes for a moment, long enough for the truth to settle into the silence. "Yes," he whispered. That single word rippled through her like a wave. Before she could speak again, a sudden clang echoed from inside. Someone had dropped a mug in the kitchen. Ella called out an apology. The spell broke again. Liam straightened. "I should go," he murmured. "I need a minute." Ava reached out instinctively, fingers brushing his sleeve. "Liam, please don't walk away." He paused in the doorway, half in the light, half in the shadows. "I'll tell you," he promised softly, "but not tonight. I need to make sure I'm ready, because once I say it, everything changes." And with that, he stepped inside, leaving Ava on the porch with a heart full of questions, confusion, and a hope she wasn't sure she was allowed to feel. She pressed her hand against her chest, trying to steady her thoughts. Whatever Liam was holding back, whatever truth was pushing against the edges of both their hearts, it was coming, and it would change everything. Ava couldn't sleep that night. She thought she would drift off easily after everyone left, but her mind kept returning to Liam, his trembling voice, the helpless smile, the unfinished confession he kept locked behind careful words. She lay awake long after the house fell silent, staring at the faint glow of her bedside lamp. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him standing in that doorway, caught between wanting to tell her everything and being terrified of what the truth might do. By the time early morning light crept through her curtains, she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't pretend everything was normal. Not when Liam clearly felt something so heavy and so close to the surface. She got out of bed, pulled on a sweater, and walked to the kitchen. The house was empty now. Her friends had left before sunrise. Their mugs were still on the counter, a quiet reminder of the night that had changed everything without actually changing anything. Ava wrapped her hands around a warm cup of tea and stared out the window, trying to make sense of the knot inside her chest. Was it fear? Hope? Both? She wasn't sure. Later that morning, her phone buzzed across the table, a message from Mara. "Are you okay? Last night seemed intense." Ava typed back slowly. "I'm fine, just thinking." A few seconds later, Mara replied. "Thinking about Liam?" Ava stared at the message for a long time before she answered. "Yeah." Because there was no point pretending otherwise. Not to Mara, and not to herself. Mara sent another message. "He looked like he was about to say something big. Did he?" Ava sighed and leaned against the counter. "He tried, then he didn't." Mara sent a sad emoji, followed by, "He cares about you more than he knows how to show." Ava's heart tightened. She knew Liam cared, but caring and confessing were different things. Before she could type another reply, a soft knock sounded at her front door. Her breath stilled. No one visited this early. She walked slowly to the door and opened it a crack. Liam stood there, hair a little messy, eyes tired, hands shoved into his jacket pockets like he was holding something fragile inside them. Ava's breath caught. Not because she wasn't expecting him, but because he looked exactly like someone who hadn't slept either. He lifted a hand in a small, uncertain wave. "Morning." Ava hesitated only a second before pulling the door wider. Hi. He stepped inside, his movements careful, like the whole room might break if he wasn't gentle enough. They stood facing each other in the quiet living room. Neither spoke at first. Finally, Liam rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm sorry for last night," he said. "I didn't mean to make things weird." "You didn't," she said softly. "You just surprised me." He let out a low, shaky laugh. "I surprised myself." Ava motioned for him to sit, and they settled on opposite ends of the couch, too far for comfort, too close to ignore the weight between them. Liam laced his fingers together, staring at them like they held a map he couldn't read. "Last night," he began, "I almost told you something I've been carrying for a long time, but I froze, and I hated that. I hate that I keep hesitating." Ava leaned forward, her voice gentle. "You don't have to rush. Just tell me when you're ready." He shook his head. "That's the thing. If I wait for the perfect moment, it's never going to happen. I keep worrying I'll say it wrong or at the wrong time, or that I'll lose you because of it." Her heart trembled at his honesty. "You're not going to lose me," she said quietly. He looked up at her then, finally meeting her eyes, and the vulnerability there nearly knocked the breath from her lungs. "Ava," he whispered, "you're the one person I'm most afraid of hurting." Her throat tightened. "You won't hurt me by telling me the truth." He swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "I want to believe that. I really do." Silence settled between them again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was waiting. Liam drew in a long breath, steadied himself, and said, "There's something I need to tell you today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. I can't keep carrying it." Ava nodded, her heart thudding gently in her chest. "Then tell me," she whispered. He closed his eyes, gathering his courage. But before he could speak, his phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. He flinched. Ava watched as he checked the screen, and his face changed. The hopeful warmth vanished, replaced by a look she couldn't read. Confusion? Shock? Fear? His breath caught. "Ava," he said softly, voice trembling again, "I think this just got more complicated." Liam stared at his phone like it had just changed the shape of the world. Ava felt her stomach tighten. "What happened?" she asked gently. He didn't answer right away. He just kept his eyes on the glowing screen, breathing unevenly, as if the message he'd read was pulling him backward into a place he wasn't ready to revisit. Finally, he lowered the phone and whispered, "It's my sister." Ava blinked. "Is she okay?" He nodded, but it wasn't a steady nod. It wavered with emotions he clearly wasn't ready to voice. "She's fine physically, but she just sent me a message I didn't expect." Ava waited, quiet and patient, giving him space. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling shakily. "She told me she talked to someone last night, someone who mentioned me and my feelings." He paused. "About you." Ava felt her heart jump, then settle into a careful, nervous rhythm. "Someone mentioned your feelings?" she echoed. "Who?" Liam looked away, eyes troubled. "I think Ella told her." Ava covered her mouth softly. Ella was kind, thoughtful, protective, but sometimes her heart moved a little faster than her judgment. Liam continued in a low voice. "My sister said she knew. She knew I've been holding something in, and she told me I should stop running from it. She said you deserved to hear it." Ava's breath warmed in her chest, gentle and unsteady at the same time. That doesn't sound bad, she whispered. It isn't, Liam said, but it means I can't avoid this anymore. I can't keep pretending nothing's there. Ava moved a little closer on the couch. Not too close, but close enough that he couldn't mistake her meaning. I don't want you to pretend, she said. Not with me. He lifted his eyes to hers, soft, wounded, hopeful. I'm scared, he admitted. I'm not supposed to be, but I am. What are you scared of? He opened his mouth, then stopped. It looked like he was pulling emotion from a place buried so deep it almost hurt to bring it out. Liam leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Ava, he said slowly, every time I've cared deeply about someone, it's gone wrong. Not dramatically, not explosively, just quietly, a slow drifting apart, a fading, like something warm turning cold without anyone noticing. Ava felt a sting in her heart. She knew a little about his past, but not like this, not the vulnerable pieces. He continued, voice trembling. I don't want that to happen with you. You're different. You're the one person I can't lose. So if I tell you how I feel and it changes everything, for the worse... He looked away. I don't know how I would handle that. Ava swallowed hard. She reached out and placed her hand gently near his, close enough that he knew she was there, but not grabbing, not demanding. Liam, she whispered, you don't hurt me by being honest. You hurt me by shutting me out. His breath caught. For a long moment, they sat like that, quiet, suspended, listening to each other's heartbeat in the spaces between words. Then Liam slowly turned his hand over, letting their fingers brush, then rest together. It was a soft touch, almost hesitant, but real. His voice was barely audible. I came here this morning to tell you everything, but now it feels bigger than I imagined. Like, once I say it, I can't take it back. You don't need to take it back, Ava said softly. Whatever it is, we face it together. He closed his eyes, letting those words settle into him. When he opened them again, there was a quiet determination there, shakier than confidence, but stronger than fear. I need to tell you from the heart, he said, not halfway, not with unfinished sentences. Then tell me, she whispered. Liam took her hand completely now, holding it gently but firmly, as if anchoring himself. Ava, he began, the truth is, A sharp knock at the door cut through the moment. Ava jumped slightly. Liam froze again, eyes closing in frustrated disbelief. The knock came once more, urgent this time. Ava stood, confused. No one said they were coming over. Liam rose too, shoulders tense, fear flickering quickly in his eyes, as if the interruption confirmed every doubt he carried. Ava opened the door. On the porch stood a person neither of them expected. Someone who hadn't been part of last night. Someone who wasn't supposed to show up today. Someone whose presence immediately shifted the air with a new kind of tension. Ava, I think we need to talk. It's important. Ava felt Liam stiffen beside her. Because the visitor wasn't random. It was someone from Ava's past. Someone who might change everything, Liam had been trying to say. It was Noah. Someone she hadn't seen in months. Someone who had once been close, maybe too close, before time and life quietly pushed them in different directions. Noah looked nervous, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes flicking to Liam before returning to her. Ava, he said softly, I'm sorry to show up like this. but I really need to talk to you. Ava felt Liam's presence behind her, steady but tense, like he was bracing himself for a storm he hadn't prepared for. She stepped outside, closing the door partway but not fully. What's going on? Noah exhaled hard, rubbing his forehead. I heard from Ella last night, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. She said you were upset, and I didn't want you to feel alone. Ava froze. Ella again. Ava loved her friend, but Ella's worry tended to ripple farther than she intended. Noah continued, I know things between us ended quietly. No drama, no fight, just drift. But I still care about you as a person, and I didn't want to leave things unfinished. Ava softened a bit. Really, but I'm okay. Last night was just complicated. Noah nodded slowly. It sounded complicated, and I just wanted you to know I'm here if you ever need anything, as a friend. His voice was calm, sincere. And that was the moment Ava realized something important. Noah wasn't here to pull her backward. He wasn't here to reopen an old chapter. He was simply trying to make sure she wasn't hurting. She smiled gently. Thank you, Noah. That means a lot, truly. Well, I won't keep you. I just needed to say that. When he stepped back from the porch, his eyes flicked to Liam, acknowledging him, offering a quiet nod before walking away. Ava watched him leave, surprised by how peaceful she felt. Then she turned back to Liam. He stood in the doorway, looking more stunned than jealous, more startled than threatened. That wasn't what it looked like, Ava said gently. He shook his head. I know, I could tell. He paused. But seeing someone from your past show up right as I was trying to... He broke off, letting the sentence trail into the air. Ava stepped closer. Liam, Noah isn't who I'm thinking about. He hasn't been for a long time. Liam looked down, his voice quiet. Then who have you been thinking about? She lifted her hand and rested it gently against his arm. You. He inhaled sharply. One word, and his whole expression changed. Surprise, hope, disbelief, all woven together. Ava continued softly. Last night wasn't confusing because of Noah. It was confusing because of you, because of everything you almost said and everything I was afraid to ask. He searched her face, as if needing confirmation she truly meant it. Ava, he whispered, I'm trying so hard not to get this wrong. She shook her head, eyes warm. You're not getting it wrong. You're being honest, and that's all I want. Liam drew in a long, steady breath. Then, slowly, hesitantly, he reached for both her hands and held them between his. Ava, he said, voice trembling but clear, I've cared about you for longer than I've admitted. I tried to hide it. I told myself I needed to protect our friendship, protect you, protect myself. But the truth is, I haven't been protecting anything. I've just been afraid. Her heart thudded in her chest, gentle and sure. He continued, what I tried to say last night, what kept getting interrupted, is that I'm in love with you. I have been for a long time. Ava felt everything inside her go still, and then warm, like sunlight spreading through her ribs. She lifted her hands to his cheeks, guiding his gaze to hers. I've been falling for you too, she whispered, quietly, slowly, but completely. His breath hitched, disbelief flickering before joy slowly pushed through. Ava, are you sure? She nodded, eyes shining. I'm sure. Liam let out a laugh, half relief, half wonder, as if a weight he'd carried for years suddenly lifted. He pulled her into a gentle, steady embrace. Not rushed, not dramatic, just warm and real and full of every unspoken emotion they had been holding back. Ava closed her eyes, letting the moment settle around them like dawn finally breaking after a long night. When they finally stepped back, Liam looked at her with a soft, amazed smile. "So," he said quietly, "what happens now?" Ava squeezed his hand. "Now, we stop running from the truth, and we see where it takes us, together." Liam nodded, his smile deepening. "I'd like that." And as the morning light filled the room, Ava realized something. His confession hadn't changed everything. It had revealed everything. And for the first time in a long time, they were both ready for what came next.